Welcome everybody to our third series talking about HTML. HTML is where you can start learning how to make your own web pages, which will translate into a website. I am Yuuki once again, and I learned HTML for a little bit, but now I want to teach you guys a little bit of how to start using it to make your very own web page or website. Depending on what you're going to be using it for, either for your own class or for your own needs. Believe it or not, a lot of people who started HTML have made a lot of money somehow. And you can actually do this starting now. And our project at the end of the series is going to make a web page single talking about a character who wants to stream. And in our case, we are going to be pretending we are going to be using a Francis Duriolu web page to demonstrate how you can use your own character to display your own streaming stuff. Now, Francis Riolu is our one of our characters on our channel, so I might as well use him for today. But you are free to use your own character to make your own streaming schedule, website, and all that, whatever you would like. So here is how this series is going to be structured. There are two main components: the introduction series, which starts here, and the actual making of our web page. The first lessons are going to teach you guys about how to start coding in HTML using different software. For this lesson, though, we are going to be talking about HTML in a how it works scenario. Then, in our next lesson, we actually start coding with the Hello World document. Then, we're going to start learning HTML document structure of how you structure your HTML. Then we talk about our next first real thing element called tables. Now, table, we're talking about content tables, like the ones you would see on the website. We also will start talking about lists as well as the first taste of CSS. CSS stands for Cascading Style Sheets, which allows you to color your web pages, put backgrounds on them, and whatever you like. We're going to be touching on that. I'm also be touching on how to style your web page as well as different elements on that web page. And then we're going to round up the first introduction section with a little bit of JavaScript to make it a little bit more dynamic. And we're going to make a button do something. And then we're going to round up the introduction portion with how to use File Transfer Protocol or FTP, which will allow you to transfer your files to a web server, which will allow you to make your website official. Then, starting in lesson 7, we actually start making our own web page based on our character or your character in this case, making a channel or website for their streaming content. For my case, I'm going to be making one for Francis Riolu because it's a Pokemon based channel. Okay, we're going to be taking it part by part. We're going to be making a navigation bar. We're going to be making a about me, a schedule, a footer, and a sitemap. And we're going to actually deploy the website for real on a web server. So let's get started with the introduction to HTML as a whole. So what is exactly HTML as a whole? To get started with that, we have to introduce our favorite application here, and that is Microsoft Paint. Everybody's favorite thing to talk about when talking about visual components. So, what is HTML? HTML is hypertext markup language. It's a language for us to to tell the computer, hey, this is a web page where you're making. And there are different elements in an HTML document. But bef- but to understand this, we also have to understand how websites work. So there are two types of websites or web pages that you can have, as a web developer. The first type is called the static type. So follow my paint as we go into what type is. So we're going to start with a static type. By the way, I am using a reference book I got, and that is the Morax HTML5 and CSS3 book. It's a blue one by Zach Ravalkaba and Anne Bohem. It's a blue book, and I'm going to show you that blue book when we get to that section. So, the static type, there's a few components that we need. The first component is I'm going to put this over here. This is the web browser. Okay, this is your web browser. Okay, so your web browser is your web browser. Okay, how you how you do the internet, like Safari, all that stuff. This is considered your client. Okay, I'm gonna have to move this a little bit. This is your client. Your web browser is a client. Now, then, in order to do stuff, you need to tell it, hey, I want to go to Amazon or a Wikipedia. Okay, the next box is going to be your server. Okay, web server. So each website has a server where they are storing data. They are gathering data or they are receiving data. Now you may have noticed that there is two arrows. Okay, so here's what the arrows stand for. The first arrow going to the right to the web server is what you call the HTTP request. Okay, what is a HTTP request? Oh, HTTP request. If I can spell correctly. The HTTP request is responsible for, like, when you enter a query or a thing in Google, for example, it's going to say, "Hey, I am requesting google.com. Can you please give it to me?" The bottom arrow is the request is the response part. So this is called the HTTP response. Okay, now we've been wondering, how does this work with HTML? Because you are saying to the web server, "Hey, I want this website. Can you please give it to me?" The web server is going to respond with the website if it exists. And then this is the web server. Then where does HTML part come into play? Right here. We're going to go circle. And I'm going to put an arrow to the left. Because what you're really requesting is an HTML page. I'm going to use this here. Okay, that's what you're requesting. So to summarize this little diagram, I am a client. I am a person on Google on the computer who's requesting a document. I mean, a website. Let's just say, for example, Wikipedia. I'm gonna go type in google.com, wikipedia.com. When I press enter, what it's going to do is I am requesting wikipedia.com. The web server is going to look into its database and say, "Hey, this is wikipedia.com. I'm going to give it to you as the response." What it's going to give you also is the HTML document. That's how that works. But this is for the static type. This is very basic static type. So I actually have Wikipedia open. This is Wikipedia, everybody's favorite site to learn about homework and all that stuff. Now, I specifically put the Wikipedia for Pokemon Mystery Dungeon, but anything on Wikipedia is actually going to be static with just a little bit of like interactive elements like JavaScript, which we will touch on later on in the series. But why is this a static page? Because there's really nothing more than text, images, links, and maybe a little bit of JS, JavaScript. But the majority of a Wikipedia page is going to be anchor links, HTML, all that. The the advanced feature would be something like the JS, the JavaScript. But everything else is static in this case. So you don't really need to do anything as part as the web server is concerned. Because there's no dynamic elements, there's no animation, there's very little JS, and all that stuff is in here. Okay? Just don't copy from Wikipedia because you know how professors are these days when it comes to Wikipedia being a source. Don't use Wikipedia as a source. Now, there's one more type of website that we must go over to understand HTML. And that is a dynamic web page. What is a dynamic web page? In addition to what we just learned, talking about the structure of a static page, there's a few more elements that we must add. So I'm going to try to my best to copy and paste what we just have so far and then expand on this. Okay, now we're going to change this to dynamic. Okay, what makes a dynamic type the way it is? Excuse me. Now we're going to get into more of the websites of today where we see a lot of stuff going on. You have animations, you have databases, SQL, which is actually another web thing that you can do, as well as an application server. And the most common dynamic site that you ever know, everybody knows about this site. Where do you buy stuff besides the grocery store? If your answer was Amazon, that is correct. Because Amazon relies on a database. And therefore, you have to have the database as well as the application. So not only do you need the regular the web server as well as the response and the request, you also need a application server as well as a database server. And here's why. Let's say you want to buy this particular headset, which I'm going to get another one because my other one broke. Anyway, I'm going to get this headset, okay, which I will as my birthday gift. But my point is this is dynamic because it requires the use of a database to see the product that you want to buy. The product that you want to buy is part of a database because they need to see, Amazon needs to see, hey, how much do we have left? And if we have no more left, I mean, if we have little left, this in stock thing is going to say, let's say, only 17 available. So this is dynamic because it's going to check the stock. And if there is only 17 left in stock, it's going to say, hey, we only have 17 available. Please update this particular code to say, hey, we have 17 available left. which I don't. By the time October 25 comes in around, I don't think that's the case, but you never know. These type of headphones could be selling like hotcakes. But I digress. Okay, so let's add the application server to our diagram to to further explain the the context of HTML. Okay, I also have an up arrow because this is from the application, and then there's a database. I'm gonna undo that line. Okay, so I'm gonna for this one I'm gonna put a like this, and then I'm gonna put this. So right here, this one right here, this square is gonna be the application server. Okay, so that's the application server. Then here, the one that goes to the application server is going to be the actual application script, which I'm going to um, abbreviate to app script so that it fits. Then over there to the right is going to be our database. So this is going to be your database. Now, database is actually SQL, which is another language that you can use for databases in particular. I may use that as my advantage of this lesson, but we're going to do SQL as a different series. So let's go over this diagram again for the dynamic type just to review of what happens when you request a website that is dynamic. So first, as normal, I'm the client, my computer is the client. I'm requesting Amazon.com and I am requesting a particular product. Let's say the these headphones I'm planning to buy again. The 2.4G, whatever this is. I'm looking for this product. So based on our diagram, I requested Amazon.com slash that product. The web server is going to give me the response in the form of the page. But then, in addition to that, the document is also going to take a look at the application server. The application server is going to go back to the HTML document to say, hey, we're going to take a look at the, the application in terms of like the JS, JavaScript, all the dynamic elements, as well as the scripting. That's what that's what the application script is for. It will go to the application server. It will go to the document. Then finally, because it's an Amazon.com, we also need to take a look at the database SQL database. That's meant to I meant to put database server, but SQL is the database coding. Then it's going to take a look at the database and give it to the application, then give it to the HTML document, then provide it to the HTML server, and then finally you. So now you don't see how many is left in stock. All you know is that it's in stock when you're talking about Amazon. The only time it's going to go red is if the database says, hey, we only have X remaining. Please update the application server for our client so that they know, hey, you need to order now if you want this product because we're going to run out soon. That's Amazon in a nutshell. Okay. Now, how can you start coding HTML stuff? Because I know for sure you want to start coding HTML, and I'll talk about theory and how this works. Well, we can use something called Sublime text, and this is my favorite one. Sublime text is color coded as well as a in the box HTML. What do I mean by that? Well, if you use text editors before, some of them allow you to do certain things with HTML and other programming languages like JavaScript and CSS. To demonstrate, I have my Sublime text ready, and starting in the next lesson, we're actually gonna start our first like real web page, and that is the hello world. So if you type in less than sign HTML, you're going to notice that you're going to see S HTML here. Press enter, and right off the rip, you're going to find these stuff. This is an HTML document, and how do I know this? Because the doc type is HTML. And then you also have the HTML tag, which we will go over in our next lesson when we actually begin talking about coding elements of HTML. The meta character set is UTF-8. That's default. The meta name is viewport. The content is the width of the device. And the initial scale is 1. And we're going to talk about device width and all that and later on down the line because we're going to be talking about, hey, we need to talk about mobile devices like a cell phone. Because nowadays you see kids on website on their phone. And if they want to get to your streaming platform, they use the phone as well. Okay? Then you have the title, and then you have the head, the closing head tag. Then you have the body tag, which is where all the content is going to go. Then also in the body tag, you're going to see script. You don't see it now because I don't have the JavaScript ready, but script is the way to say, hey, there's going to be JavaScript in here, and then the closing HTML tag. And this is where your journey for web development begins. That is how you start actually coding a page. Now, I recommend before we start our real first lessons is find a web a text editor that you like. My favorite one is Sublime Text, but if you like Notepad++, that's okay too because that's also another one that you can use. It does you do not have to copy me in terms of what um what software to use because multiple software do the same thing. All you have to follow me on is the actual lessons on what we're about to learn here. And that is also how you can test your HTML. All right. So in our next lesson, we're going to build our very first web page, and that is the Hello World, everybody's favorite tutorial one. It's very simple, but you have to understand the elements first. So that is it for our first lesson. Hopefully you guys enjoyed and learned something today. And if you did, hit that like, hit that share, hit the subscribe button, and there will be a lot more. And on the website from scratch I'm making particularly, I actually will have a series like this on that website as well. Enjoy, and we'll see you for our first real lesson on HTML. Enjoy, we'll talk about elements next time.